Okay, that was 30 minutes. I know from yesterday that I can put 30 minutes on here. That was part 4 I just read. Part 5, excuse me. This will be part 6. I know I can't join all these, but if I do join them all, my movie makers just won't do it. If I did join them all, then you'd see a video 2+ hours or more. And I've already learned that they don't get views like everything else does. Shorter is better than sometimes. I don't know how hard it is to find them all. I mean, you might stumble on one and go, that's just too interesting. I want to see the rest of them. As a matter of fact, everything I'm reading is in a video. The video itself, you can hear me fine, but the words really don't match the lips, and I just come into focus for about a second every so often. I mean, it's just terrible. And that's why we're doing this. We're doing them over. This is the one that says, Tovia Singer and Jews from Judaism have false teachings. And it's a video that is 1 hour and 24 minutes. Okay, all of these that I'm giving you right now, and as I said, this is beginning 6, is that 124. It's the same thing. Except you can see me now. I know it blurs a little bit sometimes. I'm checking my autofocus settings. There's a couple of them I'm confused on before I turn on the camera every time. Well, when I start it up. Okay, don't know exactly where I left off. Okay, Rashi. This is verse 8. From the imprisonment and from judgment he is taken. The prophet reports and says that the heathens, in brackets, nations, will say this at the end of days. When they see that he was taken from the imprisonment that was imposed in their hands and from the judgment of torments that he suffered until now. I don't agree with any of that. I'm not sure I quite get what he's saying. And his generation, the years that passed over him. Your generation, when you're born, everybody who's alive on the planet represents your generation. When they all die, that's when your generation ends. That's what a generation is. And Jesus, on all his prophecies, 5, to return, they're all predicated on it being in his generation. And his generation is all dead. And Christians, by his words, he's not coming back. Y'all just made up, religious people just making stuff up. It's not in the New Testament, I can promise you. I'm coming back quickly. I'm coming back quickly. This is the end of the great last book of the New Testament, the revelation of Jesus Christ. There's all this crazy stuff in it. Oh, and they just tear it to pieces. They try to find meaning in every verse, and you can't. It's ridiculous. And the 7th verse of chapter 1, with Jesus supposedly talking through an angel. Or a spirit, I'm not sure which it is. I think it's an angel. Verse 7. He just picked up the revelation of Jesus Christ, and it says, and he says, those who pierced me with the spear shall see me return. Well, they're dead. They've been dead a long time. They're not going to see him return. Now, if you're a false prophet, I mean, how on earth can you be God or son of God? How about false prophet, false God? It won't blur you again. It'll come back in. Who shall tell the tribulations that befell him? That's Israel. For from the beginning he was cut off and exiled from the land of the living. That's what happened to Ezekiel and me. We're cut off from the land of the living, from society. That is the land of Israel. The land of the living is the land of Israel. For because of the transgression of my people, of Israel, the plague came to the righteous among them. Oh, that's what I was talking about, the plague. God just takes credit for it. He knows the plague's coming. He knows it's going to kill thousands of people. But he takes the credit for it. Because in antiquity, this is another case of, is he really that kind of God? A lot of people say, well, he's just too angry and drove all these people out of the promised land so that his chosen could live there. And he just takes credit for it. I'll put a plague on you. He knows it's coming. I'll raise armies against you. He knows the Assyrians and the Babylonians are coming, and he knew the Romans will be coming one day. I'll raise up. Yeah, he takes credit for it. It's to put fear in his people. He said that's all he could do was scare them. They were illiterate. And if you don't go to school, you don't learn how to reason well. So, I mean, anybody who's gone to college and this and that, maybe just high school, will say, what am I ever going to use this course for? The answer is nothing, most of the time. But it helps you learn how to reason. Just learning. Just thinking about something. Trying to figure things out. Okay, here's the JPS in my commentary. Verse 8, by oppressive judgment he was taken away. Who could describe his abode? You want me to stop? Well, it's not focusing. No. Who could describe his abode? For he was cut off from the land of the living to the sin of my people, who deserved the punishment. God's writing this for the Gentiles to do just what they did. See, he needed America to have large groups of people who had his Bible, the Hebrew Bible, in their hands, no matter how it is they wanted to interpret it, no matter how ugly they were about it. He, in effect, by putting 53 in here, created Christianity. But he said, if I had not, America would not have entered the war. And the Jews would be extinct. He had a purpose. But that's another, I told you, every time he puts the verses together, 1, 2, 3 purposes, and sometimes 4. This is to describe me, a righteous servant, but at the same time, he basically is. You want me to say it like that? He usually don't. He was creating Christianity. He's giving them something to hang their hat on, and to at least know the 10 Commandments, which is about all. Yeah, they don't know the 613 laws that the Jewish people have gleaned from the Torah. Yeah, Christianity is just, yes, I believe in Jesus, and Jesus rose from the dead. You're forgiven of all sin today and all sins to come. That's Christianity. Let's go celebrate Christmas. Let's go buy stuff. Hey, come on, it's Easter. Let's get some eggs from the Easter bunny. That's Christianity. By oppressive judgment, he was taken away. The oppressive judgment is being guilty and receiving a sentence of imprisonment in his home and maltreatment. This is me. And maltreatment, chastisement, punishment, bruising, and crushing for the sins of the Jewish people. It's so I can become the righteous servant and get them to become righteous. Okay? It's not a vicarious suffering of their sins that I get, basically beaten every day by God. One way or another. Maltreated more than anything. God is using the verses symbolically, with the offering for guilt being known as a guilty plea. Yay. A guilty plea before a judge of crimes not committed by the defendant. You know, in a plea bargain, and you're in a plea bargain because you refuse to acknowledge you did the crime. Do you know you have to go in front of the judge and tell him you did it? It's just like you would if they don't listen to the bargain. I don't trust them for anything throw. You do. You have to admit to it. I mean, that's what why you're having a plea. I mean, for the most part, there's other reasons. You have to admit, yes, I broke into the house and I raped everybody in it. And you didn't. You were in like North Dakota or something. But you have to do that, or they won't accept your plea. The American justice system, which I was a part of and practicing for well over 20 years. Before I was told by God, you'll never practice law again. I said, okay. That's what you say, okay. Some things you don't even argue about. You can tell he's serious. Who can describe his abode? The jailer. Who can describe his abode? Well, remember, it's a judgment, and he's cut off from the land of the living, so it makes you think about jail. Ezekiel says, a spirit seized me and carried me away. I went in bitterness and the fury of my spirit, while the hand of the Lord was strong upon me. He had to admit to the crime. He hadn't done anything. And God just grabbed him and says, you're going through my fire refinement. Bitter and furious. Probably in pain. The prison. And a spirit entered into me and set me upon my feet. And he spoke to me. I could hear God's words is what he's saying. And said to me, go, shut yourself up in your house. That's the prison. My prison's a room. But I do have a nice great big TV I get to watch. Got a microwave. There's a fridge downstairs and in my parents' room, so it's not a bad stretch. Yeah. You got to do a stretch in a real prison or jail. The chains, as for you, O mortal, cords have been placed upon you, and you have been bound with them. You shall not go out among them, the people. Cut off from the land of the living. All of Israel will be able to describe the abode of God's righteous servant, prophet like Moses, righteous servant Moshiach, prophet like Moses, and Elijah. I don't know how it's going to be purchased. You can't get it with my Social Security check. In the day of the Lord, because of social media and phones with cameras, an abode to be honored in Isaiah 11. Which you really don't understand, but I Googled honored, and it has words like accepted as my place, this and that, something like that. And the fact that, of course, God, until I die, not just, he will enter his temple, but he's going to stay with me till I die. And he'll determine when that day is, just like he did with Elijah. You know, I asked him, is it going to be quick? Are you going to send the chariots? How are you going to do it? He just said, I make him laugh. He thinks that's funny. But he still won't answer me. He doesn't talk much. Spirit does. He talks a lot. Except when God is being super duper mean to me in the fire refinement. He kind of disappears. Early on, he used to make me laugh when God was really putting me through it. But like 2022, I hardly heard from him. It was just too brutal. He said, I didn't even want to be around watching it. But, he's an angel. All of Israel, okay. An abode to be honored, Isaiah 11. For he was cut off from the land of the living. Being cut off from something means you cannot have it or get to it. cut off in the land of the living by a man given long life means cut off from society and the material things of the world. Ezekiel was cut off in the land of the living, bound by God's power in his house, as he went through a process of refinement of soul and self to be made suitable for God's purpose of being a prophet to the Assyrian Babylon exiles. And of course, God's teaching me the scripture during everything, until, even after we got the book written, we still keep going over and over it. But in Ezekiel, same thing. It's the phrase where he says, it's a little bit longer than this, but basically, Ezekiel, eat this scroll. That's a way of, in antiquity, telling him, learn this scripture. And at the end of it, he says, now, go tell them, whoever it is, I can't remember, the words that I speak. But yeah, he teaches you the whole time. That's why I know so much. Plus, he's here to make sure I say it correctly by controlling my mind. Yeah, I don't forget anything if he doesn't want me to. They take words from me to irritate me. I know the word and they won't. Or I'll see an actor on TV. I'll say, hey, I've seen this fella before many times. I don't know his name. I saw him in the show, and then it just stops. And I know they're not going to tell me. They do it every day. It's a long-running maltreatment and irritation. I'm like, this is what we're down to? Let's just go. Moses was having trouble bringing the slaves from Israelites, from Egypt, the Israelites. He had so much to do. He had to make judgments on disputes between families and clans and this and that. And, we're going to camp here. And so God rests his spirit on 70 of the elders. And they all started prophesying, it says, and this and that. And I'm like, go to 70 synagogues and tell the rabbis in each one of them, this is the real deal. They'll believe you. They'll know. Put it in their mind. This is God about to talk to you. Right? So easy. God says, that's not how I do things. He likes the way he's doing things. So this is what he likes. I still say he's in antiquity. He needs to refine it a little bit. There ought to be a cap in a number of years. He said, I had Moses for 40. Yeah, but I don't know he was in the fire the whole time. He says the fire will stop when I reach Israel. Hint, hint, hint. Somebody, I need some witnesses. Yeah. I told him, this is how much I believe it, because he lies to me all the time. I know it says, am I a man that I should lie? Well, that doesn't even make any sense anyway. No, you're not a man. What does that have to do with whether you lie or not? But he lies to me to get emotion. I mean, I thought this whole thing was going to be over about a year into it. He would tell me, this is it. We won't be doing this to you tomorrow. And I wake up, and he's doing what he was doing when he said that, but twice as tough and mean and bad. It infuriates you. Especially if you have a furious spirit to begin with. Verse 9, Rashi, his Bible. And he gave his grave to the wicked and to the wealthy with his kinds of death, because he committed no violence and there was no deceit in his mouth. And he gave his grace to the wicked. This is Rashi's Midrash commentary. He subjected himself to be buried according to anything the wicked of the heathens, the nations, would decree upon him, for they would penalize him with death and the burial of donkeys in the intestines of the dogs. You really want to live back then and meet Jesus? Yeah, I don't think even meeting Jesus, the myth, would make you want to live back then. It's Rashi. presumably, well, he was a very intelligent man. And the wealthy with his kinds of death. And to the will of the ruler, he subjected himself to all kinds of death that he decreed upon him, because he did not wish to agree, denial of the Torah, to commit evil and to rob like all the heathen nations, the heathens nations, among whom he lived. Isn't the he Israel? Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, can you really apply that for every Jew at the time of this writing? No. Well, then it's not Israel. It's got to be 100%. Never happened again. It happened at Orb, and it happened in Jerusalem when they built the second temple. Ezra tells us they gathered as one man. That means all 13 tribes came back. And he also says Manasseh and Ephraim settled in Jerusalem. How can there be 10 lost tribes yet they teach it like it's, it's in the Hebrew Bible and God said it? I saw a video. I know Toby does. And the Lord wished to crush him. This is verse 10. Okay, this is the big one. Find somebody else who can match this as my story does. And the Lord wished, this is Rashi's Bible. I don't know what it says. The Lord wished to crush him. He made him ill. Okay, verse 12 says, exposed to death. Okay, now, the JPS does not say this. If his soul makes itself restitution, how is your soul going to make restitution? Either you're going to do it or not. Your soul can't make restitution. You can't ask your soul to make restitution. You know what your soul is? You know how you form a person? This is my knowledge of hell. It's because it's the same for angels as human beings. Soul and spirit. You have to have both to create a person. Your soul is like the DNA of the person you're going to be. You're going to be a mean person, a nice person, all kinds of different attributes of the soul itself, the particular soul that is part of you, blended with spirit. And spirit interprets your mind. Your mind, and this is in videos and in the book, your mind is nothing but different types of tissue that has an electrical current, very small, and chemicals. Okay? And it causes these electrical input synapses, they call them, busting off all the time. Well, that's not you talking. Your spirit is doing the talking. Your mind, the little voice you can hear if you try, interprets all those things. And what they are is what your eyes and your ears take in. And the spirit reads it. The spirit is your person, and your spirit is the type of person based on the soul he has, kind of like a DNA for your person. Of course, we know human beings themselves have their own DNA. Everybody's is different, apparently. Been watching too many police shows, crime shows. And the Lord wished to crush him. This is Rashi. He made him ill. The Holy One, blessed be he, wished to crush him and cause him to report. Therefore he made him ill. It doesn't say that. Not even in your Bible, Rashi. And the Lord wished to crush him. He made him ill. If his soul itself makes restitution, he shall see children, he shall prolong his days, and God's purpose shall prosper in his hand. And the Lord wished to crush him. He made him ill. The Holy One, blessed be he, wished to crush him and to cause him to repent. I said report. Therefore he made him ill. if his soul makes itself restitution, etc. This is still Rashi, Midrash commentary. Said the Holy One, blessed be he, I will see if his soul will be given and delivered with my holiness to return it to me. Return your soul to me. As restitution for all that he betrayed me, I will pay him recompense, and he will see children, etc. This is antiquity, people. Again, we're in the modern age of medicine and science. And you can't give your soul to God. You just can't do it. Amen. He said, I won't accept it. I don't accept human sacrifices either. Nor do I commit them. That, my friends, is an example of God speaking through a man. Because they're his words. They're words that would be coming from God. And he uses me to bring them out. That was God talking to you. He does it a lot in these videos, a lot more than you think. They're hard to spot. But that's what happened with Jacob. He's wrestling with the man, and all of a sudden from that man's mouth comes, Jacob, I'm changing your name from Jacob to Israel. Okay, that man's not going to say that. That was God speaking through that man. And Jacob apparently understood it because he was known as Israel thereafter. Okay, from the JPS, my Midrash, on 10. But the Lord chose to crush him by disease, that if he made himself an offering for guilt, he might see offspring and have long life. And through him, the Lord's purpose might prosper. Okay, now I've gone over and over and over this, and again, my history is 22 years ago, I was given a death sentence from lung cancer after surviving colon cancer, which is almost a death sentence. Untreatable. Never saw a doctor again. And I've done just fine health-wise. I became a triathlete. Yeah. God removed the lung cancer that they showed me. White spots all over my lungs, both of them. And they're not there anymore. I had some x-rays not too long ago that he had me get. It wasn't really to visit a doctor because I was ill or anything. He just wanted me to see. Yeah, he said, I removed it right after you left the hospital. I never really felt, the colon cancer just busted me up. I felt every bit of it, and it had burst through my my colon. But nothing from lung cancer. I never had shortness of breath. I never coughed. I was never miserable from it. Nothing. It's just like he put it in right before they did the x-rays and took it out right after. So, that's not really part of my suffering, but it does apply to 5310. 22 years later, after giving, and you don't live from stage 4 lung cancer, and just about nobody does, treated or not, more than a year. And cancer doesn't go away. That's what cancer is. It keeps growing. It makes tumors and just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it destroys the internal organs it's attacking. But the Lord chose to crush him by disease. Midrash commentary. God's righteous servant will be familiar with disease and his life crushed because of disease that he is afflicted with by the hand and power of God. He accepts that. Then yes, I gave you, I orchestrated you getting shot through the colon, but I did use my power to make sure a tumor was activated, cancer, which didn't hit me for almost 20 years. And then you just heard my story on the lung cancer. Again, he's behind it completely. My knee that I impaled on a Coke bottle, where they almost took my leg off. They said, we can't fix it. You're never going to be able to use it. And by coincidence,